Antikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatari Shtarine. So probably read text one again and the purport. So Arjuna Vacha Jayayasi Cheta Karmanaste Mata Buddhi Janardana Tat kim karmani ghore tat kim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi Keshava. Arjuna said, O Janardana, O Keshava, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare if you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work? Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has very elaborately described the constitution of the soul in the previous chapter. With a view of delivering his intimate friend Arjuna from the ocean of material grief. And the path of realization has been recommended, Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness. Sometimes Krishna consciousness is misunderstood to be inertia, and one with such a misunderstanding often withdraws to a secluded place to become fully Krishna conscious by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. But without being trained in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secluded place where one may acquire only cheap adoration from the innocent public. Arjuna also thought of Krishna consciousness or Buddhi Yoga or intelligence and spiritual advancement of knowledge as something like retirement from active life and the practice of penance and austerity at a secluded place. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid the fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. But as a sincere student, he placed the matter before his master and questioned Krishna as to his best course of action. In answer, Krishna elaborately explained Karma Yoga or work in Krishna consciousness in this third chapter. I seek everyone's blessings here as I say a few words. I know, this is a very esteemed audience. All of you discuss this Bhagavad Gita every day. You all elevated. I probably don't read Bhagavad Gita as often as any of you, so please give me your blessings that I say something and there's at least something which is useful. And if I make any offenses, please forgive me. So if we just look at where in Bhagavad Gita is this particular shloka, Krishna, I mean, in previous chapter, which kind of was at the beginning, the 5 reasons Arjuna gives as to why he will not fight. Maybe we can go through them, right? So Arjuna says, I don't want to fight because of false compassion, because I'll lose the near and dear ones, and what's the enjoyment after that? There was a fear of sin, there's destruction of traditions, and what will happen to the progeny. And then finally, he was in the state of indecision. And what happened in the previous chapter, as we all know, that post Arjuna's indecision at the beginning of the chapter, Krishna starts to speak, and he starts to talk initially about the analytical study of body versus soul, and he says how we are not the body, we are the soul. Then Krishna starts to talk about Sakam Karma Yoga, where he talks about fruitive work, how we should work for the Lord, but still have the desire for the results, which is one of the earlier stages of the yoga ladder. And then Krishna goes on to speak about Buddhi Yoga, which is what is described here, which is perform duty, but not be attached to the results, as we know. And then he went on to describe the characteristics of such a Buddhi yogi. And we heard about the Sthita Pragya, and one who is in that consciousness. How do they, what are their symptoms? How do they speak? How do they sit? How do they walk? And Krishna explains that in detail. So in this chapter, which is Karma Yoga, again, maybe we can discuss the structure of the chapter initially. I think it starts in the first couple of verses with Arjuna's doubt again, and he's still in that state of confusion, indecision. Then Krishna speaks in the next few verses from verse 3 to 8 on. Krishna explains that disengagement, which is like when Arjuna wants to go to the forest, is not the same as detachment. They're two different things. You can be engaged yet detached, or you can disengagement doesn't mean detachment, is what he explains. And then he goes on to explain from verse 9 to 16 on dutiful engagement. So he says, okay, so do not disengage, but how do we dutifully engage? And the Sanskrit word used is yajna, or which also means sacrifice. Like, how do we dutifully engage? And then from verse 17 to 19, Krishna explains how an advanced soul has no duty. And then he goes on to explain from verse 20 to 35, yet they act to set an example. And he speaks about King Janaka, which I think where we finished the reading earlier today. Then he goes on to explain what are the obstacles in that path, and talks about like lust as one of the main reasons which causes us to which causes problems. So maybe we can explore this particular verse. Maybe I can share my screen again. Sorry, Kant Mataji. There was a verse in an earlier chapter which clearly caused Arjuna to have this confusion. I think it is, if I remember right, it is 249. So, sorry, bear with me 1 second. So, if you go back to 249, essentially Krishna says to Arjuna, O Dhananjay, keep all the abominable activities far distant by devotional service. Prabhupada translates it as devotional service, but Krishna actually says Buddhi Yoga. So keep all abominable activities far distant by Buddhi Yoga, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So Krishna is saying, keep all the abominable activities far distant by performing Buddhi Yoga. I think Arjuna mistakes Buddhi Yoga as Buddhi, which translates into intelligence, like, well, if I want to develop Gyan, intelligence, I need to stay away from these abominable activities, then I should actually leave this battlefield. Why will I engage in these abominable activities? I should just leave here and go to the forest or the Himalayas and not fight the battle. And this is where his confusion arises from. How and we know, like in various yugas, even in Srimad Bhagavatam, there were so many people, so many devotees, even who left for the forest. There are lots of examples. Maybe I don't know if we can do this interactive. Can someone name a few people who left their kingdom and went to the forest to live a renounced order of life? Can people unmute themselves, Mataji? I mean, I don't know, or do I need to unmute people?
No, people can unmute themselves, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Yes.
So in Srimad Bhagavatam, with any examples where people left their kingdom, they left for forest to live in a secluded place and pray? Anyone? Yes, Mataji, Nitai. Mataji. No? So like there's examples of Bharat Maharaj, we know, right? Like in his next life, he became the deer, and then finally Jad Maharaj. He was the king of the planet. He left and then, into the forest, and the story goes as to how he gets attached to the deer, but he remembers in the body of a deer in his next life, and then finally he comes back as Jad Bharat. I'm assuming you know the story, right? There are other examples. We all know about little Dhruv Maharaj. He left his father's kingdom to go. Even Narad Muni, when his mother died, he just left. He left his place. He went north all the way to the forest to to perform meditation onto the Lord. And there are similar other examples, like Dhritarashtra, once the war was over, everything, his brother comes, Vidura, and says, come on, get out of here, right? And your duties are over, go. Pandavas also, once they coronate Parikshit Maharaj, they leave. So what's wrong in that? So Prabhupada explains this, that if you still have desires left in you, then you are not in a mature state to go to a secluded place. And most of us, especially in Kali Yuga, we've got so many desires, so many not completely pure to go into the forest and work through. So, and Krishna also tells Arjuna that you are a Kshatriya. You can be detached from this material world, yet be engaged and fight the battle. So I think Prabhupada has given this wonderful process, which is how we can remain engaged, yet be detached from this material world. And Prabhupada also gives the example, I was listening to his lecture, that there are people in Vrindavan who would chant 64 rounds but then when they come out from their cave or wherever they are, they will be smoking. So, like, they still have that desire to smoke. They're still not pure or mature enough in their consciousness. And Prabhupada says it is better to stay in the association of devotees so that you're protected. You are this checks and balance. You have got inspiration from others and progress in life in such a way that we are not attached to the material world, even though we are performing activity in the material world. So I thought that's a really important point that Prabhupada has made it so easy for us. I think the other thing which I wanted to bring up is the mood of Arjuna, right? So if we look at Arjuna asked a few questions, he told Krishna that I really don't want to fight. There are so many reasons why I don't want to fight. And then Krishna explains something. And Arjuna is a very, very, very sincere seeker. Anyone wants to come in? Okay. He's a really sincere seeker in terms of wanting to learn. So Arjuna is asking Krishna again, like in a very nice way that I really haven't understood. You told me just now that, and this is the verse 2.49 I was talking about, that I need to not engage in abominable activities. But now you're asking me to fight. I don't understand. Now, I think that the mood of Arjuna is really amazing. Actually, the mood builds up in the next verse where he says, please tell me exactly what I should do. Now, I think when we meet with pure devotees and Prabhupada disciples and various other like more senior devotees, I think our mood needs to be very similar, that we don't understand. Please guide us, please explain us. I mean, and also like it's very nice. So maybe again, Arjuna takes names of Krishna in this verse. Can someone say what names he takes? Should I bring the verse back, or can someone unmute and say what names Arjuna takes of Krishna?
Unmute. Oh, we can unmute.
Janardhana.
Yeah, Janardhana is
Keshav.
and Keshava. Exactly. He calls out Keshava, Janardhana, right? So what's the meaning of Keshava? Anyone wants to give it a try? What's the meaning of Keshava? Yes, Mataji?
Keshava means having curly hairs and nice hairs, I think.
Yeah, that too, but the killer of the Keshi demon, right? Like he killed Keshi demon, who was the friend of Kamsa and came to Keshi Ghat in the form of a horse. And you know, like most of us, when we put tilak in the morning, what do we say? Om Keshavaya Namah. So whenever we say Om Keshavaya Namah, maybe we can remember, Krishna, I really don't know. There's so many things going on in life. Please help me. Please direct me. I think it's a good meditation, right? Arjuna is calling Krishna Keshava. And when we do Om Keshavaya Namah, maybe we can remember Krishna in the same way. Krishna, please direct me. I think I really like the mood of Arjuna. Also, Janardhana. What's the meaning of Janardhana? Anyone wants to guess?
जनार्दन जो जन का उद्धार करे.
That's it. Perfect, Mataji. So one who helps the whole all living entities and uddhar kare, which is how you said it. So nice. So yeah, Krishna is so merciful. He is always there for everyone. I think these meditations are so nice, and I think we need to have the mood of Arjuna as we do our duties and call out to Krishna. So I know there's not that much time left. Maybe I'll try to summarize. So if I mean, to me, when we say karma yoga or jnana yoga or buddhi yoga, they come together. And I was reading or listening to a lecture from Prabhu, and how he said was, I mean, karma yoga tells us how we engage ourselves, right? What do we do? So it stands for the what. I was listening to a lecture from Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj, and he was giving the example of in Gurukul, there was one guru, and he wanted to test his students. So he gave them an activity. He said, he gave an apple to each one of them. And he said, why don't you go and only eat this apple if you know that no one is looking at you? Yeah. So there was one disciple who was really hungry. So he went behind the hut and ate the apple. Some person went into a cave. Some people went onto a tree. And there was one disciple who came back late in the evening. And he said, I couldn't find a place where no one is looking at me so I couldn't eat the apple. And I think what we need to realize is what we are doing, there's always someone watching, whether there's the plants, the birds, the insects, and if not anyone, the Paramatma, Krishna is always watching us. And I think when we do things which we believe are not going to be against what Krishna would like to see us, if you want to make Krishna happy, then we should not do that. And then in the what, there's another thing actually, Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj said that we should also not like do too much or too little, right? So some people think that, oh, I'm gonna go live in the temple. I'll not have anything to do with food, sleep. But that's not the case, actually. If you look at most brahmacharis in our temples, they do double the work what people outside do because they're so engaged. They want to serve so much. And likewise, on the other side, if we do too much, over endeavor, we all know atyahar prayashascha. Like if we do over endeavor, that's also not good for us. So we need to think like we need to do the activities in the right way, knowing that there is always someone watching. And with the right amount of activity, which is also important. So that's the what, and I'll put it in the karma category. Then the jnana, which is what is our consciousness when we are doing the activity, and are we detached or not? And this is, are we doing the activity because we are very attached? Are we thinking of ourselves as the body? Or are we thinking of ourselves as the soul? And we all know the example of Alexander. When he left the body, he said, I've got 3 last wishes. The doctors who were treating me at the end of my life, they should be carrying my coffin. When I'm walking, you should throw my wealth in front of me, as well as when you take my coffin, put my hands out to show that I came empty-handed and going empty-handed. The wealth will remain, and there's nothing here, neither doctors cannot save us. So I think the consciousness or having the detachment while we are engaging in the activities which are righteous is important. And finally, the why. So I said the what is the activities we do. The how is the consciousness or the knowledge we do it in. And then the why are we doing it is very important, which is where Bhakti Yoga comes, which is for the pleasure of Krishna. And this is what Prabhupada has taught us, that how we actually bring everything in and dovetail everything we do in a consciousness where we dovetail it to please Guru and Krishna. And I think again forgot Vedanta and I were reading later on. The example of Janak Maharaj is given. He was a king, but very detached and very absorbed in the consciousness of the Lord. I know I've run out of time, but thank you so much. If there are any comments or questions, please unmute. And I again ask for forgiveness. Sorry, I don't know very much. Obviously, you're all very learned, but on the instructions of Divinam Prabhu, I tried to share something.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was really nice, really wonderful class. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any comments, any questions, any discussion points?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I just want to understand. I'm definitely not a senior. I'm maybe very junior in the Krishna consciousness, even Gita understanding. But the inspiration I got from all the devotees like you and all our association, I started speaking about Bhagavad Gita with my relatives, with my limited knowledge.
Mm.
So taking all the lessons, we basically, I'm not kind of preaching. We're just reading Prabhupada purpose and understanding each of us what is the meaning we need to essence to take it. So we completed the second chapter, and well, I'm going step by step as Prabhupada words by words. So they still, my relatives are not still getting interest in the Gita. So they're saying like, as Arjuna asks now, right? If Krishna is saying that everything he is doing, we are doing nothing. So then why do we need to do, why do we even need to read Gita? So I told them, wait, we have 16 more chapters to read.
Yeah.
But now some of them are less interested. I'm like, I want to encourage them. How can I encourage them so that they will still join, not give up thinking we can't renounce. So I said, we don't need to renounce. We have to just work in the right conscience. But no, I don't want them to give up. I want them to fall under 16 lessons.
That's right.
If you could help me, how can I encourage them, please?
I mean, I can share what I did. So like again, same, right? Like during lockdown, I thought like, how do I mean, I didn't speak to my dad that much, even before, we were all busy in life. And somehow I felt that I need to like at least share what we have learned. And I started in the other way. So I told my mom and dad that why don't you join one of these courses, which my dad was reluctant to do. And finally he did. Like my mom joined one, but it was in English and she could only understand Hindi and nothing was working. But then during lockdown, I also did the same thing. I said like, I'm going to spend half an hour with my dad every day reading. And what I started with, I don't know if you've seen like, the Sutapa Prabhu's, Bhagavad Gita in acronyms, which is a summary, right? It goes into like just 2 pages per chapter so that they get the essence of what the whole thing is. So we finished that first and he got more interested. Then slowly I encouraged them to also join some reading groups and others. And then we moved after that to some Jagannath stories, because I wanted to keep the interest on while, there's the depth of philosophy. Then there was a course by ISKCON Ayodhya, 18-day course, which both my mom and dad joined and they loved it. And then now they've got 4 other. So I still spend some time, but there are lots of other sanghas as well as reading groups and other things which they have joined. And somehow they're getting not just from me, but lots of other people as well. And they are in India. And initially, like over the years, I tried, but it was not working. But at least it worked in that one scenario. Also, like there's another group, an IIT group where we discuss, where we go into this, but we just try to It is Rajesh Prabhu and I where we try to facilitate it, and it's very nice because there are different people who've got different interests, and we discuss to try to just go with stories against each verse or try to make it very engaging. Otherwise, people will lose interest. So maybe you can try that, Prabhu. And the only other thing I would say is if I mean, you obviously, I'm sure you're doing it with such good heart and everything. But if you also, if you like something that you hear from someone else, send it to them. Maybe that will also inspire them. So there's this mix and match, and it's not just you talking to them because sometimes familiarity is difficult, and also we also like, right? At least I like a choice of various speakers which I hear. So maybe try that. Again, I'm sure lots of other people on this call will have their own experiences and ideas. So maybe if anyone else wants to chip in.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for a nice class and nice suggestions. I will try. I think I have a challenge with the language because, as you said, your parents at least can know Hindi. I get more material in Hindi or English, but we are Telugu, so I'm getting.
Oh, Prabhu, you have to try Nitai Sevni Mataji.
Yeah, so I'm sharing the videos of Nidai Sevni Mataji.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I've shared them with my parents as well, and she's so good. She speaks Telugu as well.
Yeah, she has some Telugu, most of Telugu lessons. So I share them whenever I go through that. I think recently she spoke on some topic on the Bhakti Vai devotion. So I said that as well. Yeah, it's very talking. Yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? No. So thank you so much. Please forgive me for my shortcomings.
Sorry, Prabhu. There is one question in the chat.
Yeah, please. Okay, sorry. I'm not
I can read the question if you want.
Okay. So this thing, it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secluded place. No. So this is, sorry, please, I probably made the mistake. So of course you need to chant in a sacred place and nicely. This is more about people who want to run away from their daily activities, go into a cave, do 64 rounds or 200 rounds a day and just live there. But they still have all the material desires and they don't have the spiritual maturity to do that. That's what I meant when I said that it's not advisable to chant in a secluded place. For us, like living in the home, to go into your sacred space and chant is a nice thing. Sorry if I have clarified. Is that okay? I know. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat. Oh, sorry. So many people were giving answers. I'm so sorry. I was not looking at the chat. So nice. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? I mean, we still have 5 minutes. If not, we can close the call early. Okay. Thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhaktavrind ki jai.
Yay.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu. It was a
Krishna.
lovely class.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.